Hello, in this video we shall talk about software project risk management. So we all face risks in the daily course of our lives. So a risk is an uncertain event which may occur, which may divert us or delay us from our objectives or sometimes even derail us. Let's take the simple task of driving from our home to our office. We may face risks like a traffic jam on the way, or getting a punctured tire, or running out of fuel, or facing an accident. All these are likelihoods which may or may not happen, which may divert us from our goal. So these are risks that we face. Similarly, in projects too, we face different risks. Let's see what is the classic definition of a project risk. So a project risk is defined as an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on a project's objectives. But in this video, we shall talk more about the negative effect and those risks which could result in that. Let's have a look at the risk management process in a software project. What are the steps involved in managing risk? So the first is identifying risks. The second, how do we assess or evaluate these risks? The third, planning the risk response, both in advance and if they do occur. The fourth, monitoring these risks on an ongoing basis throughout the project. And finally, reporting these risks and communicating it to all the stakeholders. These are the 5 key elements of any risk management process in a software project. Let's look at each of these steps in detail now. Identifying risks. What are the steps involved in identifying risks? The first, let us look at historical information and take the lessons out of that to identify the most common risks. Typically, we can look at the process assets like risk registers from past projects to glean the most frequently occurring risks. The lessons learned document from previous projects could be used. So the past experience is a very good indicator of what the most likely risks in a project are. The next, revisiting the assumptions that we have stated in our project plan. Questioning the assumptions and asking ourselves, what if something that we have assumed goes wrong? So that is where most of our risks lie hidden. So if we can do that, we will be able to identify the risks. The third is consult some experts. Ask them with some structured questionnaire if they have come across any risks in similar projects and how they could be of help to us in preparing the risk management approach to the current project that we are in. And fourth, hold a brainstorming session focused on risk with our own team and our peers in order to identify those risk areas which could be of much critical importance to us in managing the project. So these are some 4 key points as to how we can go about identifying risks in a project. Let's now move on to seeing how we can assess risks. So there are 2 broad ways of assessing risks. The first is the qualitative analysis. Assess risks in a qualitative way. In this, you note down risks based on risk category, then give a brief description of the risk as you see it, and a qualitative probability of the risk. So whether it is a high probability risk, medium probability, or a low probability risk, assess that based on your past experience and what you think about its occurrence probability, and the risk impact that it will have in terms of the time, the effort, the cost that it will have on the project, whether it will be a medium impact, high impact, or low impact in terms of these parameters. And once you have jotted these down on your risk sheet, then you can prioritize these risks. So in this example, we have categorized, the first item and the last item as top priority items, where the second item dealing with the hardware as a slightly lesser in priority, considering the combination of the risk probability and the risk impact. So this is a judgmental exercise where you give a qualitative attributes to each of these and you prioritize and deal with the risks accordingly. Let's now look at the next, which is a quantitative analysis. One of the methods of assessing risk is a quantitative analysis using something called expected value of risk. In expected value of risk, you assign risk probability quantitatively. For example, here the risks which are pertaining to change management, delay in requirements is seen to have 80% probability based on past experience, delay in arrival of testing hardware 50%, delay in availability of key skill resource 10%. Whereas the risk impact value, the first one is $5,000, the second one $2,000, and the last one $10,000. Probably these have arrived at based on how much waiting time the team has to undergo because of the delays in cost due to these factors. And the expected value is just a product of the probability and the risk impact. And with these, you arrive at the total risk expected value by adding up all these. So what do we do with the total risk expected value? It helps us to factor in this amount in the total budget of the project. So this is one way you can factor in the total risk value into the project budget. So expected value of risk is just one measure of quantitative analysis. There are multiple methods like Monte Carlo simulation, decision tree analysis, etc. Expected value is the simpler quantitative method which is used in software project development for risk assessment.